Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm like,
I'm so
oh, we're
excited
getting it
I
all.
made it in.
Let's see. I've never done this before.
I know, I was a little nervous that I wasn't going to be able to log in. I was having nightmares.
I was like, can someone just send me the link in case?
Yes, I was about to text you and be like, what if I can't get in?
Wait,
This
so is
day
there
is,
gonna be like a moderator?
huh?
Why does it say there's 5 eyes?
I don't know. I hope we're not live.
Oh my god.
um, maybe it's
Hello?
people waiting to join. Oh,
Oh,
we are live. Charlie, come join us. Well, I'm super excited.
me too. Let me mute all of my. Yeah.
Hey, Charlie.
Yo, what's up? Yeah, I think we are live. And I'm not sure if we're supposed to be live yet.
We have a moderator who should be joining soon.
Um. Because I thought there was like a backstage link that we were supposed to be using, which
Yeah, that's how I joined.
yeah, okay, cool. Then
Yeah, but I feel like the backstage took you because when I clicked on the backstage, it took me to Bruna's. Um,
me too.
yeah, so I think that as soon as hers was, because if you saw like when she was having technical issues, like it's kind of like I think as she finished, but I mean I don't know because I mean is she done? Like, I feel like if we click on that now, like we would have been in that backstage.
It's all good. They get 2 extra minutes of our flavor, so it's all
Yeah,
good.
we're like definitely live. I see
Yeah,
some
I
of
mean,
my coworkers on here.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. If anything, it humanizes us. It's just we're all figuring this out.
We were all on time.
We were. Probably
I was
the
Yeah.
not the
anxiety of
only
it.
one.
It's like I'm taking the SATs again. Gotta make sure to be there on time.
I never took the SATs. Oops.
Mm, they're awful. All right. Do you all see a button that says moderation panel in the bottom left
Yes.
corner? Okay. I was like, am I the moderator?
Yeah. I think. I mean, I think we're gonna have a moderator. I don't know.
If not, we got it.
That's good right here.
Wait, who was that?
Maybe I should get it tattooed too.
And then one thing that I was seeing, everybody is just,
Who
has just been so
Tattoo?
moved. I think they want
is
to see
someone playing in the
commercials.
background? Is
They
that
want to
me?
have a podcast. So amazing job today, Bruna. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me the.
Oh.
Was that? Oh, Lauren, you were playing.
And
Were you
I
watching
think from
something?
now we're going to officially transition to knowledge sharing cultura sessions with a focus on Latinidad, intersectionality, and belonging. So here we go. I'm going to leave that transition and I will be back for the next part.
I am so confused.
Yeah, I'm like confused.
What is going on? So I think we were supposed to hop onto the backstage. Hold on, I might bounce out. Give me a quick second. I'll be
Okay.
back.
All right.
I see the views are increasing. Welcome, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Gio. Hi, Natalie.
Charlie, come
Hi,
back.
Oscar. Hi, Sharon. I'm just going to be saying hi to everyone. Hi, Scott.
That's amazing. I love the support.
I mean, I'm saying also hi to people that I don't know who they are.
So I think now we're just waiting for Charlie to come back.
Yeah.
He went on a little adventure. Did you want to start, Rosalinda, by introducing yourself?
Yeah, totally. Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad that y'all are hopping on to join us today. On Hoppin'. Is that why it's called Hoppin'? I don't know. But my name is Rosalinda Cortez. I am a product manager at Modern Health. And I guess some background is I'm from Bakersfield, California. My parents are immigrants from Veracruz and Michoacan in Mexico. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk about just kind of solidarity and learning from each other and hearing each other's stories as a way to feel empowered. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Tell us what you currently do at Modern Health.
Yeah, so there's a moderator now. So I'm a product manager right now, and at Modern Health, we help to destigmatize talking about mental health in the workplace, which is perfect for me because I love talking about feelings and introspection, and it's just a wonderful place.
Awesome. Thank you, Rosalinda.
Yeah.
I'm Lauren Cush, and there's Charlie. Hey, Charlie, we're just doing intros. Rosalinda just introed herself. Do you want to go next?
You can go.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm Lauren Cush. I'm originally from San Jose, California. I'm a Chicana. My parents immigrated here from Mexico. And currently I am working as a diversity talent sourcer. I have a non-traditional background in which I landed in tech in an untraditional way. I never graduated high school, but I did go to college and graduated with what would have been my class. So I think that correlates to this session of, am I the only one? If you don't have a traditional background and you're looking to get into tech, you're not the only one. So I'm here to tell you that. But I'm going to popcorn it over to Charlie so we can learn more about him.
Yeah, appreciate it, Lauren. So quick intro. So I Salvadorian American. My family immigrated from El Salvador, both my mom and my dad. Initially raised in LA. I've moved around quite a bit. So as of recent, I've been in Oakland, Bay Area. Currently in Mexico, I'm in Querétaro, so I'm working from here. I work for a cloud security startup, Lacework. So I started as an entry role there when we were 40 employees as a sales development rep. I've gotten quite a few promotions. I was a director of sales for the East Coast and helped build our partnerships channel in the East. And currently I'm doing a US business development for partnerships. So building out our partner ecosystem throughout the US. But yeah, that's really a general intro about me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. Esteban.
Esteban.
Hello, Esteban.
Oh, hey, Leslie. Yeah, definitely. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I previously worked there as well. So I'm sure we will have lots to chat about. Congratulations on landing that job in talent acquisition. That's really awesome. some of you might have, if any of you attended the Latinx Quest that happened a few weeks ago, I contributed a piece, and maybe Rosalinda and Charlie did as well. They can talk about that in a few. But I call it coming out as previously unhoused. I don't like to use the word homeless, but I was unhoused for about 10 years total in the LA area. My life didn't stop. I was still able to work in tech. I was still able to work for CBS on a game show, and also contribute to in the East LA community, in the theater community. So life goes on, and I joined a coding boot camp, and now I'm here in San Francisco, have my dream apartment in the Mission District. But I say all of that to say that I really want to use my story as a springboard to talk about how I'm not the only one who faced all of those challenges while I was unhoused. In LA County before COVID, 34% of the unhoused population identifies as Latinx or as Hispanic. So let that sink in for a minute. When we're watching these news broadcasts about people being unhoused, we're talking about people like us. We're talking about our own community. So yeah, it's great that I have this incredible journey and opportunity, but I always want to bring back the focus to la comunidad, and that I'm not the only one. So I'll popcorn it to Rosalinda and Charlie so they can chat a little bit about their experiences about not being the only one.
Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, so I thought we would have a moderator just for everybody in the audience, but apparently we don't, so we're just gonna move forward. So really, as the title, Frente al Mundo, am I the only one? Coming into this, I really, wanted to speak on just the insecurity sometimes as Latinos we face working in predominantly white tech startups. I know for myself, I was one of the first Latinos. I think the first Latino working at my startup when we were only 40 employees. We're above 500 now. But there's certain things that I realize that sometimes, it's how being a Latino actually benefited me. And I'm sure Rosalinda and Lauren can actually speak in that, but more on so as I've realized that the way I navigate the space. So, I like to carry myself very authentically. Part of it is, the way I grew up with my family. I didn't have pre-exposure to tech. I didn't realize I wanted to go into tech till a little before I actually was in tech. But the way, tech, especially predominantly tech startups, have like stereotypical folks, especially working in like sales or like sales bros. I've kind of, in the way I befriended people, I didn't know a lot about the different roles in tech, so I was genuinely curious, and it almost felt like I brought in like a fresh breath of like fresh air. Like people were really open to just, people were really receptive to me. Like I connected with others seamlessly. People took me under their wing. People liked the way I was really authentic and genuine, the way I asked questions, the way I was curious about things. And in the end, that really ended up building out my brand. So I have a really, really strong brand at the company where I'm at. And that led me to just different promotions across the board, just, being able to hop from an entry role to a director role isn't something that comes too easy, but I honestly felt that it's really based on the brand that I was able to build at my company. And it also came into building champions. It's not I also think, as Latinos, we come in and we work hard, but we often don't know how to be vocal about that, and we don't know how to also advocate for ourselves. I know I wasn't comfortable, so I had to like learn from others and seeing how, like, sometimes again, people that are born that come into this that they're more privileged, they don't really question these things. They just, they're confident from the beginning, and they're already asking, for their promotions, their raises. I just, buckle down, heads down, work hard. But I learned that I have to be vocal. But it's not also about me being vocal. It's also about building champions that can speak for me. So even when I got my promotions, it was other people advocating for me to getting promoted. They were putting themselves in the front line for me. And so, I'm happy to speak more about how I did that and how I felt, also being a Latino led to that. But those are really some of the things, I wanted to bring up on this panel. But yeah, I don't want to take over this. I'll let Rosalinda and Lauren as well speak to this.
Yeah, I can go next. I think speaking to what Charlie was talking about, I think everyone's personal journey towards self-advocacy is so inspiring to hear about. And I think for this session, I would love for us to all kind of hear each other's stories towards self-advocacy in an effort to really draw strength from that as a community. From my perspective, my parents didn't really have an education. And so me growing up in the United States and having to navigate a lot of those systems for them and for our family really imbued me with a really big sense of ambition. I always looked at it as like I'm looking through a window into like this wonderful world that I really wanted access to. And that has served me well up for a long time, right? So there's always that ambition of, okay, got to do good in school so I can go to college, got to do well in college so I can get a job, got to do well at my work so that I can get promoted. But more and more, I realize, I step back and I question it, right? I ask, well, whose house am I trying to go into, right? Like whose home am I trying to, or house am I trying to break into? And a lot of times it's whiteness, right? Like the systems that are in place that are built upon white supremacy. And it really helps me to think about it that way, in that I don't need to change myself in order to try and make it into somewhere where I don't even feel comfortable. And that kind of realization is something that I struggle with every day, right? Like just making sure that I'm thinking about how I'm decolonizing my own perspective and the way I view things is so important. And being really authentic about that, I think helps other people feel able to be vulnerable and authentic in that way. And so I just want to hear everyone's stories. If you all have kind of like similar experience, I would love to see that in the chat. Yeah, that's just kind of where I'm coming from this morning.
Yeah, I think building on what Rosalinda and Charlie were talking about. Charlie, I love when you talk about building champions. That's kind of what got me to where I am right now after all those hard years of being unhoused. Mostly I was unseen because I was carrying the shame, and especially in our comunidad, which we tend to think, well, you didn't work hard enough, or you did something wrong, something happened. When the reality is that, to Rosalinda's point, there are forces way beyond us, and hundreds of years in place that are literally crushing some members in our community, especially the more vulnerable. Being a queer mujer in our community has not been easy, but through networking and letting people build me as a champion, like Charlie is saying, building champions, and being able to access new spaces through my network, I really have leaned into the Latinx tech community. And I have to say, my relationships have improved so much better, so much more. For example, I'm learning how to negotiate, something that I think Rosalinda and Charlie both talked about. You have to advocate for yourself. I think that as Latinx it's already built into our mold that we're going to be hard workers. So people know that about us, and that's why we get hired. They know that we're going to show up and we're going to give it 100% and even more. So since that's already a given, we really have to go in there and advocate for ourselves. That's the second piece that we need to follow through. For me, it's been accepting other people in my life who can build me up, because when I was trying to do it on my own, it wasn't working. There are thousands of Lauren Cushes out in LA County right now that are invisible, that are just waiting for an opportunity to come out of whatever struggles they're facing, and then build themselves up with the help of the community.
I think I'm thinking back to kind of that comment of building champions, and I really love that phrase. Charlie, I'm interested to hear from you. What does that look like? Who has helped build you, and how do you build others up?
Yeah, I think so. I was actually looking at the comments. So I'm looking at one, Brady. He said, I think advocating for promotions for other people is really important. So I want to highlight that, because I think one of the ways to, when I started at my startup, we didn't have much of a culture. Even now we struggle with the culture, but so it was a really just, heads down, busy, like, we're trying to be a successful company. So there wasn't, everything's about numbers, and no one was really like building anybody up. But even within that culture, the easiest way for me to like build people that will champion me is for me to champion others. And that's why I brought Brady's comment up, is because one, so when I started, there was a Latina, and we would like hype each other up. It was never, I think, especially when it's amongst us Latinos or other, folks of color, it's like we should never be like competitive against one another. It's always about hyping each other up. But even outside, those, because it was just us two. So even within, I supported like regional sales managers, my directors. I would always shout them out, and that's kind of part of also my personality. It's not like I'm not a competitive person. If anything, I compete against myself. I'm just trying to get better. And when I see somebody that's, like challenges me, I just try to see what they're doing, but to improve myself, not to outdo them or outshine them. And so even when I was, in calls with other leaders, and I had my higher ups in there, and if they were doing something right, I would like shout them out. I'd be like, this person is doing, it's like, I really appreciate the way they're doing this. I would always incorporate those type of positive words within any conversation I'm having, whether it's with a broader audience or like one-on-one with other people. And so when people hear, because it's also like psychological in a sense, when people hear, you championing them, they want to do the same for you, especially if you're actually doing like good work and they appreciate, you as an individual. And so they just start, championing like just the way you do it without even really like, think they're returning that favor. And so I did that with, everybody I've met at my company. I always, everybody, we're all complex beings, we all have like bad and good qualities, but I would see the genuine good qualities that they have, and I would always highlight those. And so it was always reciprocated. And so again, when, like I developed that really, powerful brand that was unique to me. There were people that were like busybodies. I wouldn't say I was like, there's like go-getters, I'm Latino, I work hard, but I it was a different type of work hard for me. If anything, sometimes, people would say Charlie's really insightful, Charlie's really thoughtful, Charlie's really, he's consistent. There was phrases that were associated with, they weren't fake, they were really a part of me, and that people were able to see and highlight them. And so, yeah, so when I got, when I transitioned to a higher director role, those were the words, Charlie's not going to let you down. He's going to be consistent. He figures things out. He's insightful. It's like, and it was just this brand that I had built, that people had championed from the beginning. And then even when I met people from the first time, they already had a preconceived idea of me. And it was always on the positive side. They didn't start the conversation neutral. Because sometimes when you first meet somebody, you're it's like 50-50. First impressions mean a lot, but when they already have heard good things about you, you already have an upper edge. So yes, I would say, advocate for others, our own people, but even, like even there's again, I worked with a lot of white people, but like, there were good people that took me under the wing, people I learned from, and I shouted them out, and so it's building that ecosystem for us.
Yeah, I think that mentorship is very important, especially Latinx and other underrepresented communities tending to be the only one in a group, right? Sometimes we're in these meetings or in these tech spaces or even educational spaces or otherwise, and there's only a small group of us, so only one of us. So then when we're looking for mentors, sometimes our mentors aren't going to be Latinx. So one thing that I'm a strong believer in, and I not only talk the talk, I also walk the walk. I give back to the community. So I myself am mentoring women who they're underemployed, or they're going through coding bootcamp programs, and they need someone to mentor them. And also in workspaces, when someone reaches out to me, I don't hesitate. It doesn't have to be formal, but I don't hesitate to offer some of my time so that I can have FaceTime with people and show them that, yeah, you're not the only one. There's someone else here who looks like you, who understands where you're coming from. And I'm going to be generous and share resources and share knowledge, because ultimately that's the only way that we're going to increase representation in these spaces.
I think it's so interesting to think about competition, right? Competition in the workplace, competition in your career, etc. I think that, at least from my personal experience, I always grew up with my mom telling me not to brag about my accomplishments because I would get mal de ojo, and that someone would put like some kind of weird curse on me or something. And exactly, evil eye. And it sounds like people are resonating with that. It's just like something that I think is within our culture sometimes, but I also think it's a part of that kind of trauma that we have because of the experiences of our parents, our ancestors, especially when it's like your family is an immigrant family. They're not going to trust the government. They're not going to trust the establishment. And they're passing that on to me as a way to make sure that I'm protected. But sometimes it doesn't work like that, right? If I'm not bragging about my accomplishments, or if I'm not speaking up about the things that I'm doing at work, then how are people going to recognize that in me? And how will I get promoted, right? Like, how will I get the praise or the acknowledgement that I deserve? And I do think that within the Latino community, there's sometimes a sense of invisibility. And so being able to recognize that is also really important. But it's also not on like 100% on the Latino community to uplift ourselves. We need allies to help us, right? So I would love to call in all of the allies that are online to recognize when you maybe are not acknowledging the work of certain individuals. Recognize and interrogate, who is it that you praise regularly? Who are you giving shout outs to at an all hands, right? Because that's really important. And I just wanted to give that point out because I want to make sure that it's not just us doing this, that we're doing this for each other, but also the responsibility too is on our allies to deconstruct this. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. No, I think, and I think that's a really, because even like that, like, I mean, we've talked, you talked about building allies, building champions, but at the end of the day, we do have to like advocate for ourselves. Like, we won't get if we don't ask. And I think of my stepdad. My stepdad's from Mexico, Guadalajara, and he works hard. He takes so much pride in it, and it's a stereotype. It's that we're stereotyped, and we carry that like a badge of honor. I know, in my first job before, I used to work at warehouses, and honestly, at home, I could be lazy. I could be like, my room would be a mess. I was young, but when I was at work, it's like like even unconsciously, I would like work hard, and I would like measure myself against others, and I would take pride in it, and I would like not call people out, like, but like in my own head, I'd be like, oh, they're lazy, like criticizing them, and I would, but it's also not really, I just it's almost just been superimposed, like just this stereotype that we feel we have to conform, which is great. It's good to be hardworking, but bringing it back to my stepdad, like he works construction, and he's like, oh yeah, ya me dieron esta mejor posición, porque estoy trabajando, sí, le estoy echando ganas, me miran, and he's getting more responsibilities, and he's working, hard and all of that, but he's not getting any pay raises. He's not getting any like management, but like they tell him good job, and he's managing more people, but he's not really, and he's not comfortable with that. I'm like, you should maybe advocate for yourself. Maybe you should like have a conversation about getting, and he struggles with it because in his mindset it's like, no, I work hard, eventually it'll come. They'll just, my work's going to speak for itself, and it does. But like everyone, we're all looking for ourselves. Your managers want to get promoted. They're thinking about, that. And so unless you like put some agency on that, and I bring that, I'm bringing this up because even I'm uncomfortable sometimes with that. Even now that I've done it and I'm in tech, it's not something that comes natural. And I think, again, for other people that are more privileged and they have certain expectations, they work maybe half as hard. They're smart, they do their job, but they advocate for themselves and they get promoted. So it's going against that uncomfort, like forcing us, like asking for more stock if that's a possibility, asking, for that raise, asking, for, promotions, like being curious, like we have to, like I've done it, I forced myself to do it now. And yeah, I've been granted more stock, and easily based on just a conversation. If I had not said anything because I felt uncomfortable, I wouldn't, and that's a long-term investment, that's gonna, so yeah, so it's just, there's steps and there's ways to do this, and those are like other conversations, how to do it intelligently, and how to plan for it. But sometimes it's as simple as asking, having a one-on-one with your manager and really just, like being vocal about it.
I think someone's asking in the chat, Alejandra's asking, how can we break barriers without assimilating in a white corporate community? So I have lots of thoughts around that because these past few years that I've been working in tech recently, it's not the first time I worked in tech. The first time I worked in tech was actually in 2013. And it was here also in San Francisco where I am right now. And now that I've returned to San Francisco, it's a whole different atmosphere. So let me explain how it ties into that question. I never compromised who I am. So when I go to work, I'm a Chicana. I can't hide it. It only takes a few seconds of someone talking to me. Doesn't matter if my name's Lauren Cush or Heather Meyer or Heather Smith. It doesn't matter. I'm a Chicana, and that's gonna show up with me everywhere I go. So Alejandra, I would just say for me, it's been a continuation of growing and evolving who I am, and then finding places that are going to accept me. I'm not going to mold myself just for a paycheck. People can do that, but and I am definitely whitewashed to a certain extent. I'm definitely sometimes I tick the box in the whole techie area, but when I go to work, I don't leave myself at home. but it has not been easy. I have to say that it has not been easy, and not every space has been accommodating, and I have had to change. But at this point in my life, that's just something that is a non-negotiable.
Yeah, I plus one that. It's kind of like the question that's always in the back of my mind of like, am I being authentic for myself, or who am I, or am I performing for someone? You know, it's always like that constant interrogation of my own motivations about with the things that I do, the types of products that I choose to work on. It's so important to recognize too that there isn't an easy answer for that, right? Like I myself love having an answer to something and then moving on and being like, cool, I got over that. But this is not something you ever get over. And so even just accepting that it's always going to be a little like kind of, there's always going to be that tension. And just leaning into it, I think is really important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's something that always has to be interrogated. And I think it's like I bring, I'm a Latino, we have, Laura and Rosalinda, Latinas, it's always different. I navigate spaces. If things affect me and I see things differently, people treat me differently as a male. But I the way I like to think about this is you're assimilated when you stop questioning, in the sense of we stop challenging. So if I see, it's we always want to appease, like, there's always a hierarchy based on like titles and seniority and everything, and sometimes there's things that are that they're that they say that they're problematic. And so it's very easy to just like put your head down and like, and assimilate and, blend in. And so I think it's your willingness to like stand out. Of course, there's a way of doing this, but it's, so, when I'm in conversations with like peers and I see something, a reference, whether it's to like Latinos or like, or Black people, or, other folks of color, or, people of different sexual orientations. Like I call people out, I bring them into question, I start, and I feel like that's my authentic self speaking, like my values and like what resonates with me. And I feel as soon as I stop questioning, as soon as I stop making people uncomfortable, like I don't start certain conversations because I'm afraid they're going to be uncomfortable, like then I'm assimilated. But if I'm willing, again, I think there is a way to do this though. I feel like I always bring people into conversation. I bring certain questions. I think about it this way. And so, we don't want to be confrontational, but yeah, so I think that's kind of how I think about it. Because I think I would really dislike myself if I hear someone being disrespectful or saying something problematic and I don't say anything about it just because I want to save face. Like I probably wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Like, why did I not say anything? But that's just me.
I think that is so, I mean, that resonates with me a lot. I think that it's really important to have that. Oh, but it at the same time, you also have to take care of yourself, right? Like I feel like over a long time, I had a lot of anger because of the inequities that I saw, especially in college, right? So I went to Stanford where there were millionaires, like there were people who were so wealthy and had every advantage in life. But I was there, and my degree is the same degree as their degree, right? But it's hard not to be angry, at least for me. And over time, it takes a toll on you, on your health, on your soul, on your spirit. And so finding that community at work or around you where you feel like you can be really truly yourself at either your organization through an ERG or like your friend group at work is so important. And I want to just give a shout out to all of my friends who are online because they have definitely been kind of just one of the most valuable parts of my career so far. And Yeah, and I also don't want to I also wanted to make sure to mention that it's also really important when you are at an organization, if you're part of an interview panel, and you notice things, you need to say something. Like I say so, like even very recently, we had a panel where every candidate had been white, and I said, hey, I've noticed that every candidate is white. And even just saying that is so important because um, it's so easy for different things to happen where you're in kind of a feedback loop where if everyone you're hiring is white, or if everyone on your team is white, the people you're going to hire are white. So it's really important to be even there, even being there, like it's important to call it out. And not even just in general too, like advocating and solidarity with other people is so important. And yeah, I just am here to say it's good to be brave. And I mean, I'm not scared. My parents weren't scared to come here, and I get strength from that, right? But yeah, it's my little
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah. One of the things that comes to mind when I was reflecting last night on this panel of the topic of, am I the only one? I started thinking about the times where I've been at work, either in entertainment or in tech, or in my previous life as a buyer. And I've thought about it. I'm like, wow, I was the only one in a lot of those spaces. What does that mean now that, you know, it's a decade or 5 years later when I'm reflecting on it? And when I look back, I'm like, that was a brave, queer little Chicana in those rooms who had no right to be in those spaces, claiming all of that for herself, but she did it anyway. And it takes courage to be the only one. So for everyone out there, even if you're the only one or one of a few, it takes a lot of courage to take up the space that you're taking up wherever you are. So just know that and celebrate it, right? That's so difficult, but we're doing it anyway.
Yeah, just existing is an act of rebellion, and I just take so much strength from that.
Absolutely.
I'm actually curious to hear from you both, Charlie and Lauren. If you could talk to yourself maybe 5 years ago, maybe at the start of when you're first starting to work, what would you say to yourself?
I would have wow. That's a lot. Yeah. So 5 years ago, I would have told myself to be more persistent and expand my network unnaturally. So I think this goes back to how everyone is saying how it kind of feels unnatural for us to advocate for ourselves. 5 years ago, I was very hesitant to maybe reach out to a complete stranger on LinkedIn and say, well, first of all, I don't think I realized the power of LinkedIn. But I was a completely different person, and I would have never reached out to a complete stranger to make a conversation. But now, knowing what I know, for example, I'll give you a quick example that I give people that I mentor is when I was expanding my network, when I started working in talent acquisition, I set out, okay, I want to meet people who are doing D&I work, because that's not what I'm doing right now, but I want to do it in the near future. So I reached out to about 70 people, okay, on different platforms who did the type of work that I'm interested in networking in. Out of those 70 people, about 17 responded to me. And out of those 17, about, I would say like 6 made the commitment to meet with me over a 15-minute Zoom coffee chat, okay? Out of those 6, only one person actually showed up. And then later on, a few months later, another person. So it took me 70 connections, 70 reach outs to just make 2 new networking connections. But in the past, I would have never reached out to 70 people. It would have been completely uncomfortable for me. But that's So I guess I'm answering your question, Rosalinda. That's what I would tell myself: is reach out to 70 people, just strangers.
Yeah. What? Just when I saw Michael's comment, like, calling things out, I saw you responded to a charming way. I think, yeah, I think there's always way to call things out. I think I have my own way of doing it, which is, I think I could be charismatic or so, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but, um, but I think, there's some
What did we
self-development.
just talk about, Charlie?
Charlie,
Come on.
I guess I'm humbling myself, but I think going to your question, Rosalinda, I don't know. I think because even 5 years back, I think I was still in college, but I was already in a pretty good trajectory of and to bring Lauren's point is like of being uncomfortable of challenge. So how much so just quick context, myself background. So I mentioned I'm first generation. So I got I was kicked out of high school when I was young. I went to probation schools, and my family, like most of us went to college. But I worked at warehouses. I worked like dead end overnight, and that was my reality. At 20, I'm 31 now. When I was 20, I even thought I was gonna have a kid at some point, and I was thinking like diapers. I got to work like warehouse job, get more hours. But like I never envisioned that one day I'd be in tech. I never envisioned that I'd enter like a public, go to UC Berkeley. I didn't even know what UC Berkeley was. I got there really through I met some youth organizers, and they took a chance on me, introduced me to books, sparked my intellectual curiosity. And so, one thing, people I've met kind of influenced me, and I discovered like new aspects of myself, curiosities. But so I would say 5 years ago, I think I would have been less my process, I have a certain like philosophical approach to like my own life, but I think it would have been not feel so anxious about the future, because I think I already trust the process, and the process is, as Lauren brought up, is not being like when an uncomfortable. So for example, I entered into an entry sales role. If you would have asked me 10 years ago if I thought sales was for me, I would have said hell no. I'm like I am not a people person. I can't be in front of people like that. I can't cold call. I can't, it's just it would have just felt so unlike me. But like by the time I heard, like once I was on the row, and like I would hear like these, like every opportunity sound, like I was just open to like endless possibilities. And so even when I got into like this entry role, because oftentimes we think very narrowly, it's just like when we're in college, we think, what do we major in? Because we think that what we major in is going to lead to like specific careers. We like major careers, major careers, major careers. I majored in rhetoric. What the hell does rhetoric lead to? Like rhetoric, how does rhetoric lead into like tech or business or anything else? But like I've done a lot outside of like rhetoric. Even when I was in Berkeley, I was joining like different organizations, like journalism, like like business, like education, like like with working with social organizers. I was traveling everywhere, like visiting like rural projects in like different countries in India, in Brazil. I was just, I was interested in so many things, and I was just flowing with it. And so when I entered like the tech company startup, it was the same interest. I'm like, okay, sales leads to like sales. No, I'm like, sales could lead to anything. So I'm like looking at customer success, like project managers, like partnerships. Yeah, I even had people like, once my brand was built, technical people within the company reach out to me. They're like, yo, if you want to be a part of my team, I'll train you. I'll put the time, like, I trust your work ethic. Like, I would love for you to be in my team. And so like the possibilities just open. So when I think of like my future, even now, like my future honestly might be in tech, might stay in tech, might not. But I'm like, I'm always looking for like, I'm always pursuing my curiosities. My interests are always evolving, and I'm reaching out to people, whether it's via LinkedIn, I'll reach out, I'll set up one-on-one chats. I'll set up coffee chats, I'll pick people's brains. I also think it's also important to offer value. And so, you know, people feel free to reach out to me. Like I'm happy to connect outside of this, and kind of like my approach to like building like networks. I'm huge on yeah. I do think your network is like, you know, like it sounds kind of, I don't know, net worth. I don't know how that sounds. Might be as problematic. I don't know, but like I'm really like, I build genuine connections like globally. I'm really huge on building networks, building like brand, and building. I like connecting people also. Like if I know somebody's working on something and I know somebody's leading something and like it aligns, like I'll connect people. And so I just love doing that. So I will reach out to like people on LinkedIn. You know, I'm always curious. I'll connect with people. I'll set up again like Zoom chats, phone calls. And when people reach out to me, like I do, you know, I return the favor as well.
I just want to chime in really quick. I want to remind everyone that you know, not all of us went to like super great schools. I went to a school in Arizona, Northern Arizona University, but right now we're living in a golden age of opportunity where really, if you have the drive and the skill and you have the determination, you really can get any job that you want, and or be an entrepreneur and do your own thing and create your own company. So don't let that limit you either. That limited me, I know, for a while. But it doesn't have to be. It's nice to have, but it's not necessary. We're living in a golden age.
How much
So,
time do we have?
yeah, I'm looking at the time. It says, I think it's up until 10:45. I don't know if we're just going to get cut off, but I'm just going to keep talking. But in case we do get cut off, it was nice chatting.
Yeah, let's keep talking.
Yeah. So from my perspective, I think that 5 years ago, maybe, I think that I was focusing a lot on my own insecurities, right? Of like, man, I'm so tired of like having to feel like I'm a different person at work, or like having to navigate white spaces is so difficult. But at the same time, that has built my communication skills like really like a lot. I feel like I am able to have those difficult conversations with colleagues because it's something that I've done my whole life. And more, I realize like with colleagues who are like my white colleagues often feel super uncomfortable with it because they haven't had to build that skill. And I think recognizing that we have these very unique strengths is so important. And then also being able to intentionally apply those at the right times is also really valuable. So if I had to talk to myself when I was younger, I would have just told myself to reframe my thought process and reframe the way that I'm thinking about my own strengths, my own skills. Because I think we could all do that. I think we all have to build those different kind of skill sets that other people don't. And I think that that's so valuable.
You can always reinvent yourself. I didn't always know what a sourcer was, which is what I do now. My first job out of college was a business analyst for Mervyn's. If any of you remember shopping there when you were little itty bitty little babies. So that was my first job out of college. Then I went into buying. And then the 2008 recession happened, lost my job, my apartment, everything overnight. And it literally took me a decade to bounce back. So I'm not the only one, because everyone who went through it with COVID, that's going to be a lasting thing on their record. So definitely in 10 years, there's going to be another Lauren Cush talking about how the recession during COVID really set them back. So you can always reinvent yourself. Don't give up. That's what I say. I know that there's someone out there who needs to hear that. So that's why my heart's telling me to share that, because sometimes we isolate ourselves thinking we're the only person, and we get into a dark space. But really we're not. And it's all about reaching out to people and leveraging our comunidad, especially places like Techqueria, which I know for me, I've been able to network with people and even recruit people into the organizations that I currently work at through Techqueria.
Yeah, and also to add to that, because I think Techqueria is like hella dope, like shout them out. But like even we're speaking here, like I'm really big in demystifying things. Like y'all could be speaking in like the next Techqueria session, which I think is what's hella dope about Techqueria, that it makes these things possible for a lot of us. I know um uh before I went into tech, I was in Brazil doing like an abroad study abroad program my last year at Cal, and that's I started doing a fellowship for like business development, thinking of tech. And so I was like, oh, when I get into like back the Bay Area, like I'm gonna start just networking. I'm gonna find other like folks of color like in tech and like network with them. And I did a Google search and I found Techqueria. And then I just, Techqueria was hosting like an event at Twitter, and speaking, and then they had a speaking engagement, and I spoke, with a few other folks at Twitter, and I connected with a lot of people. But it's like, like that would have never. I remember people outside of tech, or even friends that were in tech and hadn't heard of Techqueria. They were like, "Whoa, like you spoke at Twitter, like that's huge!" Like like it did good for like my brand as well. But so like Techqueria, like it's really dope that they offer us that that stage and that possibility. So just demystifying the fact that we're here, like all of y'all can be here too, and if it makes you a little uncomfortable, like that's challenge that, because that's you evolving. Like if you get like challenge that, and like you do it and then you overcome it, you'll realize different things about you that like you might actually enjoy it and you're good at it. And it makes but it just evolves you as a human. It's like when we stop growing is when we let uncomfort dictate our actions. And so if you feel uncomfort, like interrogate it and then be like, yeah, like like challenge it and overcome it, and then you just like became 2.0. And next time you feel something else that makes you uncomfortable, like you'll feel like, oh, you want to walk away, but it's like you realize, hey, I faced this uncomfort before, like, and I overcame it. Maybe I could do it the same again, and then you'll be like 3.0. But that's really just how it is. That's how I perceive, that's how I approach life. And it's done me good. So again, look for these type of events, whether they're in Techqueria, outside of Techqueria. I'll go to networking events by myself. I'm in Querétaro, I don't know anybody. I'll, chat with people, whether there's artists, creators, entrepreneurs, activists. Like I'm in spaces alone. I don't need anybody to go with me, but I built myself to this being this comfortable. And it all started with baby steps. So again, yeah,
I
go.
100% agree with you, Charlie. It all starts with baby steps, and growth is uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. Right, Rosalind?
Yeah. I'm taking a look at a question from Graciela, which I really love, is
Yeah.
what are the words your Latinx parents use to describe your current positions?
Oh, okay.
For me, it's like computadoras. El internet.
That's funny. Yeah. I don't even know what my parents say, to be honest. They don't even know how to say what I studied. Like I travel a lot, so family's always like, "Yeah, say Charlie, like what's he doing? Like, ¿qué estudió?" And like again, what I studied and I do doesn't align, but it's like I'm like, just tell him I do like I studied like I did rhetoric, but I'm like, just tell him like sociología y filosofía, or like something, like and but like yeah, I don't know how they explain what I do. Like they just say that, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have a relationship with my parents anymore, but I know that they probably think that the only thing I could ever do is be some type of secretary working for a man. So I don't know what they think or what they would say, but that was a very interesting question.
Can you say you had a career sponsor, or did you just break into tech on your own? That's a question in the chat. From my perspective, it's all typing. From my perspective, there was a woman who I was in a Latinx engineering society with, and she started her own company. And I was looking for a job at that point, and looking at internships that were not paying at all, which is awful. It's very bad. And she was just like, "Do you want to come work with me?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I started as a product associate, and then worked there for several years. So yeah, I definitely had kind of like a sponsor or a mentor. Definitely not by myself.
Yeah.
The first time I got a job in tech in 2013 here in San Francisco, I was unhoused and I was like sleeping in my car in different areas. I'm pretty sure I'm the reason that many streets in Bernal Heights have like limits on parking now and you need a permit. I'm pretty sure that's me. But I was staying in different hostels, and the day I interviewed at that tech company, I took a shower at a shelter, which I wasn't staying at because it was at full capacity, but they allowed me to get ready there. And I didn't have any sponsors or any mentors at that time. That was my first time getting employed in tech. Then later, most recently, I went through a boot camp while I was housed in Venice Beach. It's through the St. Joseph Center. It's called Code Talk if anyone's interested. And there I met an amazing, truly, it's an amazing group. It's an amazing group. And I actually was paired with a mentor who works in counsel at Snapchat. And at first I thought, wait a second, I'm learning to code. Why is my mentor a lawyer at Snapchat? That makes no sense. But big shout out to her. She was a great support for me during the boot camp, and then also through my interview process when I bounced back into tech. This time around, I got lucky. It's always a little bit of luck and preparation, right, guys? I was recruited into a role. So the second time around, I had a lot of support.
Awesome. Yeah, that's powerful, Lauren. Like you came a long way. I seen Lazaro. He's posted a few questions. But to touch on the first, so it wasn't a sponsor. So I think it's a similar trend. There's a lot of boot camps now, and I actually did the same through the non-tech. But I wasn't even so. When I was in Brazil, I was really interested in education. And so I was really interested in like alternative, like radical education projects. And I signed up for a lot of newsletters that I'm interested in. And I got one from like Angel Investing. It's like Angel, it's like where all the young companies are at. And it was 10 companies disrupting, 10 education companies disrupting tech. And so I found one called, and so shout them out, SV Academy. And so SV Academy is a sales bootcamp. But what resonated with me was not that they were going to break me into tech, was like their headline. It's like, oh, there's a company that's like challenging, like the industry, like diversifying, like how are you doing it? I read up on it. And so I really gravitated with what they were doing. And then it said that they had a business development fellowship. I did not know exactly what that meant. My curiosity got the best of me. I just applied. They gave me a call. And I went through their program. It was really intentional. I would say if you're thinking about breaking into tech, non-tech with the non-tech role, they have like customer success and sales roles now, entry roles. It's like look them up. I'm happy to provide insight on that. But that's how once I found out again, I was going through the boot camp, I'm like, oh, this is an entry sales role. Like I felt that like, I don't know if this is for me. It made me uncomfortable, but I'm happy I went through it because everything leads to another thing and I'm here now. But and with student organizations, one thing is like we're all victims of wanting to add like accolades. Like we always, like I met people at Berkeley that had outstanding resumes from high school. And so sometimes we measure ourselves against that and we want to like stack up our own and like, which I think we have to be really intentional. You don't want to just put cycles in things because they look nice. I joined a fair amount of organizations and pretty broadly as well when I was in college. But I would say they were all really intentional, and I would get feedback from others that went through them, and I would think, what would I get out of it? And I would see the people that were in it, and it would be things that really interested me, and they played an influence on the way I kept growing and evolving. So I would say, everything is useful, and I still seek, like, I mean, my time, is more constricted, like, and like I'm more conscious of where I spend my time and how I spend my time, just because I'm working full time and I have other side things going on. But I'm always seeking other, like, organizations or networks or things that can, like, promote my growth. That never stops, and I think it's always going to be, I'm always going to be pursuing like side projects and side and networks and all of that, just because I enjoy it. I enjoy growing, and I enjoy connecting with people.
All right, everyone. So we're at 11 o'clock. Really quickly, add me on LinkedIn if you want to chat about anything. I'm a product manager, so if you want to talk about product, anything like that, or just life, just hit me up.
I'm going to be hitting you up, Rosalinda. And you, Charlie.
Yeah, likewise. All right. Appreciate it, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day. Enjoy the
Bye.
festival.